Number 2 is Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards has played 27 playoff games at this point. He's averaged 28 points, 6 rebounds, and nearly 6 assists in the playoff games he has played. That's like impossible to me. Anthony Edwards is so good at basketball. Anthony Edwards is already, for being a 23-year-old dude, he gets better every year. He gets better at something every year. Like this year, I thought he got way better as a passer and playmaker. Then he averaged 26 per game on top of it. Like he was a monster.
48, 39, 82 shooting splits in those 27 games in the playoffs as well. So, yeah.
He is also a genuine, this is the guy that I was talking about when I talked about J-Dub. Like I said, there's one other guy that you can say is a 3-level scorer at 23 years old and younger in the NBA. It's this guy. He is, when he was coming out of Georgia, I think we were all worried, but like he doesn't really ever generate shots at the basket and his free throw rate isn't quite as high as what we wanted it to be. Yeah, like it was very clear that he was just not quite as engaged in terms of generating shots at the rim and like didn't want to drive into traffic all the time. And there, I don't know, maybe there was some self-preservation things happening there in terms of making sure that he gets the NBA healthy. Anthony Edwards has become such a positive generator of offense at this point, making the right decisions more often. Like he's not 100% on that stuff, but he's getting better at making the right decisions. On top of just being, I would say, the best combination athletically in the NBA of explosiveness, power, balance. All three of those things combined in one player, and probably deceleration as well.
I was gonna say his decel,
yeah, having all of those different traits combined in one player, I would say he is the best athlete in the NBA right now. On top of continuing to grow in terms of skill set, getting better as a shooter, getting better as a passer and playmaker. He just kind of has the whole package if you're looking for a 2-guard right now.
Yeah. And I think what gets lost sometimes in these high level athletes is the nuance and the skill they have. And I think that can be underrated with him. His jumper has no wasted motion, has great elevation, straight up and down. The contest ends up not really mattering a lot of time, but then he leverages that shot making into drive. So he's able to, I think one thing I'm interested to, as I get into my scouting this year, one thing I really like to look at is that footwork is really nice. We talked about this with him as well. We did a whole break. Sorry, I stopped mid-sentence. Yeah. It's beautiful. We did a whole breakdown about him stopping in these areas and the extra footwork and pivots and all of those things. That's the skill work and the nuance. But that navigation dribble of the secondary defender, I think he just, we don't talk about his handle in the same way we do other guys, and maybe rightfully so, but you don't get to the spots on the floor that he does without some level of handle and body control and all of those things and nuance in your drives. There are other athletes like Asar Thompson, obviously just a rookie. Amen
is the one to me.
Yeah, is like,
yeah,
they can't do these things yet, but they're incredible athletes. And I'm not saying they won't get there, but
John Morant has some of the similar explosiveness kind of things. He's just way smaller.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
And like doesn't have the power to literally blow through dudes at the rim, and like he dunks through guys. Like if he can really load up off of 2 feet, Ant can dunk through guys going off of 1 foot.
Yeah. I think what I want to see from him, for him to like, I want to ask you if you had a different tier here between these final 2 guys first, but I think for him to be in like a MVP candidate, like to be in the Wemby tier, MVP candidate tier, I think he does have to improve his decision-making, because I think what teams are going to load up on him because he's such a good scorer. I mean, it's a compliment, right? Whenever teams load up that way, I do think if I was defending Ant right now, I would go, you know what? I'm going to put him in as many high-level read situations as possible and see how patient he can be doing it over and over and over and over. If he figures that out, forget about it. It's over.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with all that. Like that's where the next steps have to come. But comparing where he is now in that regard to comparing where he was, when he was coming out of Georgia
So I
and
didn't
even in his
scout him.
first year in the
Was that
NBA.
rough? Was that rough?
Oh, it's
Like,
terrible. It was
okay,
really bad coming out of Georgia.
okay,
The growth is like pretty exponential for Ant in terms of making the right decisions, consistently reading the court as a passer and playmaker. His vision has gotten better. Like I felt like his vision at Georgia was not particularly strong. There
okay,
was like and again, this is before you were doing this like full time, but like there was like a whole conversation about whether or not like Ant should be like a top 4 pick even
okay.
because the decision making tree was really bad. And obviously he should have been a top 3 pick. I had LaMelo over him. Like I was very clearly wrong about that. But like I thought that Ant's decision making was a real question, even if the upside athletically was insane and ridiculous and absurd, right? So the way he's improved the footwork, the deceleration, the thing that he never really understood how to do coming into the NBA was how to slow down and
Yeah,
how to change gears and how to like figure that piece of it out. He kind of has that now. Like
yeah.
he has that ability to really slow down and be able to like stop and assess a little bit more while keeping a live dribble. That's the other thing that like he's really, really improved at is keeping his dribble live. Uh, that's the kind of stuff that's like really, really hard, I feel like, to improve upon. But he's just such an athletic freak show that he's kind of just able to do it at the end of the day.
And then he also has the on-ball defense to go with it, where like this is a
Yeah.
guy who could completely dominate the last 4 minutes of a game. You're not going to ask him to guard the best player on the other team for the entire game, especially when you have a couple other guys that team has. But late in a game, on the ball defensively, he can get after people. He's got a ways to go off the ball. He gets very ball watchy and loses track. And I know there's highlight reel plays because of his athleticism with blocks and disruption and all of that. It even showed up in the Olympics at times. I have it even in my notes from some of those games where he got lost off the ball. But considering the offensive load he's taking, I think he's a pretty good plus on the defensive end to go with that.
I think right now he's probably a neutral
Okay.
defender
Interesting.
in total, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
I think that some of the off ball lapses, especially like when a team like kind of runs him through actions and things,
Sure.
he ends up being there pretty late. He has like unbelievable recovery ability, obviously, but like I think that in general, it's more neutral
Okay.
right now than
I felt like his
anything.
on-ball ability made up for the off-ball
It
concerns
it it
combined
does
with
to
the
me for what it's
playmaking,
worth. Yeah.
like, because he has the ability to get beat back door and then recover and block the shot. So, like, that's a bad process play, but he's so athletic that 1 out of every 5 times he can make up for his bad process. So, I thought the on-ball with disruption made up for the bad off the ball.
He does, but like, the problem is like his teammates can't read the mind of when that's happening, right?
Sure. Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, if Rudy Gobert has to come off and help after he gets beat back door
Then
and
the
the guy
jump
makes
off.
a pass, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So
That's fair.
yeah, look, like he's a neutral defender. I agree with you that like the on ball abilities make up for the off ball lapses, but it doesn't make up for it and he's switchable as well. That's the other thing. Like can guard ones, can guard twos, can guard threes. Like I think he's pretty fine on fours because he's so strong.
Yeah.
So there are real things he can do on defense. Like I don't mean to overstate the negatives on
Yeah, yeah,
defense.
yeah.
I think
No, I got you.
he's not a negative defender. I thought he was a negative defender when he entered the NBA. He's
Sure.
not a negative defender anymore. He is like very much if he's engaged, a plus defender. If he's not engaged, it's a little bit more neutral. And I think that there are also some like awareness things that come up off the ball as well still. Like not just like lack of engagement, but like also some awareness things that
Sure.
will pop up.
Yeah.
And just in terms of like reading like where he needs to rotate
Yep.
and things like that. So look, Anthony Edwards has proven himself at every single level. He is the only guy on this list I believe that was a rotation player on Team USA this year for a reason, right? Like Halliburton was on the team,
Halliburton, what? Yeah.
but wasn't actually playing. So yeah, Ant has already established himself as the guy among perimeter players moving forward. And look, like the personality stuff like does matter to me in terms of him just being the most confident player I at this talent level that I've seen in a long time. Right?
It absolutely matters. The more I'm around this, the more I get to know people and talk to people and get access to like, yes, I don't want to go too far into it, but confidence is a real thing, even with professional athletes in the NBA and the ebbs and flows of that. And having that ultimate unwavering confidence when we're talking especially about this level matters 100%.
Yep. Second team All NBA this season, was a top 10 player in the league already this year, was the best player on a team that I believe finished. Were they first? Yeah, were they second?
Thunder.
I can't remember.
Thunder finished first, right?
Second in the West. Or no, they were third actually, now I think about it. But like all the top 3 teams were top 3.
Yeah,
right?
They were one game back of OKC and Denver. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, this was one of the 5 best teams in the league. He was the best player on one of the 5 best teams in the league. He was a top 10 player in the league by any measure this year.
Knocked off the defending champs on the way in the playoffs to the conference finals.
Yes, they did. Took them to the conference finals. Like everything that he has done at this point has been so remarkable that I think you have to have him at number 2. And if I'm being completely honest, I do think that he is in the tier with the number 1 guy.
Okay, so my tier was MVP. So how I broke down my tiers was MVP, All NBA, and then essentially like all-star level, and then kind of like elite role players. I had him as a potential MVP over the next 5-6 years. And so I don't think he's going to be better than Wemby, but if you told me there was a year where he wins an MVP, I wouldn't be shocked.
Right. To me, like, I wonder if he is kind of like the modern Dwayne Wade, kind of. Like Dwayne Wade never won MVP, right? But he was an 8-time All NBA player, was the best player on a title team, and then, was the second best player on 2 title teams with LeBron, right? You look at his MVP shares, like was twice top 5 in MVP, was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other times top 10 in MVP.
Yep.
And look, like if Ant continues to improve, Ant is ahead of where Dwayne Wade was at this point in his career. Like Dwayne Wade was like just entering the NBA at this point, right? Anthony Edwards is still somehow only 23 years old. Dwayne Wade got to the NBA at 22 and was like, top 8 in MVP as a 23-year-old, right? This past year was Anthony Edwards' 22-year-old season and was 7th in MVP.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, like, to me, that's kind of the player that he reminds me of. And Dwayne Wade is a top 30 player of all time. And there is some room here where Ant could surpass that, I think.
Where there's a gap is what Victor could be all time compared to what probably Ant can be all time.